Welcome to this tour of the posters in the largest single exhibition of Grateful Dead concert posters ever. It is running at the Narrows Center Gallery in Fall River, Massachusetts from January 27th to April 1st, 2023. I'm your host, Ted Bahr, and I own the only art gallery in the country dedicated to late 1960s psychedelic rock poster art. Not just Grateful Dead. I've been collecting on and off for over 40 years, and I opened the gallery in 2018. Most of the posters in this exhibition are original first printing posters printed before the concerts and used to advertise them and sell tickets. There are some second printings as noted, and some posters, particularly after 1974, that were sold on site at the shows as souvenirs. The posters are for sale from the Narrows Center through April 1 and are framed archivally with museum glass. Some of the larger, thinner posters have been backed with linen to stabilize and protect them, and that's another archival process. Each poster comes with a certificate of authenticity as to the edition from the Bahr Gallery. I'm going to start by walking you through the history and background of the psychedelic poster, and I hope you'll find that informative. But if you want to skip ahead to the posters in the exhibition, you can start with part 2 of this video series. The 1960s, such as we know them, began with a tragic event. Kennedy was the hope of the newly emerging baby boomers, and his death left a gaping hole in the generation. Soon, the times they were a-changin'. The civil rights movement, the pill and feminism, opposition to the Vietnam War, the whole countercultural revolution, and more. Skirts were getting shorter, and hair was getting longer. Rock and roll was fueled by the British invasion, and by 1965, music would start down its own revolutionary path. It was only 2 years after this photo from the Ed Sullivan Show that we had this in the panhandle of San Francisco. This slide is where I play a 7-second clip from Voodoo Child that took me several hours to figure out how to make in GarageBand, but when I posted to YouTube, they reminded me that, of course, it is copyrighted music. Sorry about that, Jimmy. Now, back in the 1950s and early 1960s, when concert audiences looked like this, the posters promoting them looked like this. In the 1950s and early 1960s, posters were straightforward, legible, called boxing-style posters. They were direct, very factual, and used to sell tickets plain and simple. Nothing artistic was involved. Maybe a picture of the performer, that's it. But soon, the posters in San Francisco would be different, which is where our story really begins. In San Francisco in 1965, there were 3 near simultaneous branches of ever wilder multimedia music events fueled by the drugs of the new generation, marijuana, and especially LSD. The first group was Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters. Kesey first took LSD as a research volunteer at Stanford. With the proceeds from his popular novel, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Kesey and his band of Merry Pranksters drove across the United States in the summer of 1964 to psychedelicize the country and meet East Coast High Priest of LSD, Timothy Leary, in Millbrook, New York. That meeting didn't happen, but after the bus returned, Kesey and the Pranksters started to hold acid-fueled raves with multimedia, films, dance, dayglow, and music by a band named the Warlocks. These were called acid tests, and here are 2 posters advertising one. The next group of players were Chet Helms and his friends, a group of folks calling themselves the Family Dog. They spent the summer of 1965 helping a friend who was renovating the old Red Dog Saloon in Virginia City, Nevada. Also coming out from San Francisco was the proto-psychedelic band, the Charlatans, and the poster on the left advertised their appearance. This poster is known as The Seed, from whence it is claimed the psychedelic posters officially got their start. After that acid-soaked summer at the Red Dog, the Family Dog started producing free-form psychedelic rock events back in San Francisco. They called these tributes, as in the tribute to Dr. Strange, pictured on the right, the tribute to Ming the Merciless, and the tribute to Sparkle Plenty. Again, we had music, wild lights, LSD in the Kool-Aid, freeform dancing, costumes, bells, flowers, and the like. And third, we had Bill Graham. Graham was older at 34, and some might say wiser, with a keen business sense born of scrappy New York opportunism and an escape from the Holocaust when he was 8 years old. Graham attended a play by the radical San Francisco mime troupe, and when its leader was arrested for obscenity, he organized a benefit for the legal expenses on November 6, 1965. It was a success, and he began to look for a better place to hold the events, and he found the Fillmore. His second benefit was held December 10th, and the poster you see here advertises the third event, January 14th. These events were similar to the acid tests and the Family Dog events in their free-form, multimedia, acidic character. By the way, you'll notice on this poster that the performers are all pictured except for the Grateful Dead. Instead of a picture, Graham, who did not like their name change, just wrote formally the Warlocks. These different events all converged in January 1966 at the Trips Festival. Launched by Ken Kesey and Stuart Brand, who later created the Whole Earth catalog, they decided to take things to the next level. San Francisco's Longshoremen's Hall for 3 days, and 10,000 people attended. And so the psychedelic revolution was off and running, or let's say off and flying. Melting? Probably all of the above and more. Now this ends part one of our Narrow Center tour. Pick it up in part two.